So welcome back, Will. How are you feeling?
What a welcoming gift that was.
Welcome back to the James and Dame Show. I'm Josiah,
And I'm Will.
and this is going to be the Divisional Round recap. We are getting very close to being done with this season, and I don't know how I feel about this, but here we are. So we're just going to go over the 4 Divisional Round games and just kind of break down what we've seen and heard from, whether it be during the game, before or after the games. Depends on what we hear and kind of talk about stuff. So let's just get the obvious and the most depressing out of the way. Texans versus Chiefs. Wow, what a shocker. I'm so surprised this happened.
Yeah, takeaways from this game. I mean, I know there were a lot of complaints as far as reffing goes, and I saw some of the plays where it's like it's not. And they're lighter, but it's not stuff I haven't seen called before. So it's I think just a lot of people complaining because the Chiefs are one game closer to what everyone doesn't want, except for the Chiefs fans. And yeah, so I think people are just grasping at every reason to not give them credit, which I kind of think they just deserve. I think there was what was it? Kaimi Fairbairn missed an extra point, a field goal, and then there was a blocked field goal. So, which is a 7-point swing, which based on how that game ended, could have had some significant implications, especially when you take away that. I mean, a different scenario, but you take away that safety, because that's just a game ender basically. So take away the safety, you got what 19-23 is how those few points swing that game. Yeah, the Chiefs didn't play amazing, but
They played well enough. And see, the thing is that I have a different opinion when it comes to the ref ball. I do believe the refs were very inconsistent, and those should not have been penalties. However, before people start accusing me of thinking the NFL's rigged again, I do think the Chiefs did play well, so they deserve the win. This is a Texans team that we have stated over the season that has been very underachieving. Like, this team has not been as good as advertised. And sure, there's been injuries and stuff like that as well. But the Texans were not very flashy and confident for most of the year, especially in such a weak division. You would think you would be a little bit better, I would say. But, I mean, there were some points this season that you and I have stated that the Texans were a bit rocky.
yeah.
They picked it up a little bit, but they're still not to where that first-year swagger that C.J. Stroud had last year.
Yeah, I mean, you made it just as far as you did last year with a similar record to what you had last year. So
Yeah.
it's interesting again for you, lowest home seed in the playoffs, win your first round, pretty easily too.
Yeah.
And then it was, and both years you did this, and then you go and get beat by the 1 seed.
That's just what happens sometimes.
Shockingly similar. The difference being there's a lot less optimism, I feel like, compared to last year where you were like, wow, this looks really good, to now where you're like, sophomore slump didn't look too good. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's similar years, so we'll see how next year goes, and maybe they'll take a step forward.
Yeah.
Solid season from the Texans. They're
a little underperforming, but definitely a
they're
not terrible season compared to
gonna
the
have
previous season.
some things to look at for sure. But
Yes, drafting players and off season and stuff like that will definitely help the Texans, especially getting their morale boost and everything. I think the coaching staff there is great, and that whole team is kind of put together pretty well. It's just unfortunate that you had to go against the Chiefs again. You're 0-6 in games, and you still haven't been to the championship yet for the AFC. It's kind of sad. I was hoping you can get there this year, but knowing the Chiefs, that wasn't going to happen.
yeah, right, because they're the one team who hasn't made the AFC championship. And I think they're the last team who hasn't made a championship game
Ever.
So
Yeah.
That's,
It sucks, but
a little salt in the wound for
they'll get there someday. It's just not this year, apparently.
I didn't think this would be the year anyways, but
No, it was a little rough.
even as hopeful as we were.
Yeah. But we can move on to the next. I'm going to say it's surprising for me. I know you called this earlier. The Commanders in Detroit.
Yeah, I just I didn't expect it, but I did.
You rooted for it though.
I was rooting for it because I like the way the Commanders are playing. They're kind of especially my team. I think they're the team I'm rooting for in the NFC. Even though I wouldn't be too mad with the Eagles, but mostly just because of Saquon.
Yeah.
The Commanders, again, I didn't expect it, but I think I did mention how I was like, it wouldn't be too surprising with the way they've been playing. They're playing with nothing to lose.
Yeah.
And again, that's just another thing that's just fun to watch. I don't know that it'll be enough to really get them all the way there, but it's, again, still fun to watch, and it's fun to see them do it with a rookie quarterback. You go up against a team that has a lot to lose and a lot of injuries with the Lions, and I mean, they fought hard, but similar case with like the Ravens game where it was just too many mistakes. Turnovers particularly was an issue for the Lions, and I think the Lions, again, I just don't think they were fitted to make the full run with the injuries they had.
No.
And again, we also saw a rocky game accompanied with, turnovers that, I mean, we saw Goff overcome turnovers earlier this year with, 5 interceptions against the Texans?
Yes.
With a bounce back win, but this isn't the Texans. So it was a rough showing, and I do think what are the comments? If you recall, after the Lions-Vikings game, how Dan Campbell said to Kevin O'Connell, "See you in 2 weeks," and
now they're both on the elimination couch.
Yeah, now people are like, "Yeah, Cancun's gonna."
It's gonna be nice, isn't it?
Yeah, it's funny, but yeah, these two they're two good teams. I think the Lions just were playing. They were playing. Yeah, it's such a long year, and they looked so good. But there's a few teams where injuries really just derail their season, and this was as hard as they fought. There was just only so much they could do, and I think they were better prepared than the other NFC North teams, but yeah, it just didn't seem prepared enough. But before we do go on, I do want to, because I mean, probably not any other room for them to get mentioned, but there was some news regarding not just Kevin O'Connell, but he was mentioned first, so I'll go with him first. Him agreeing to a multi-year extension, and I'm curious what you think on the details.
I'd say Kevin O'Connell is a pretty decent coach. You're not going to find many of those just kind of lying around in the NFL right now. especially with how the coaching market right now is kind of, it's not that good right now. Unless a lot of teams let their coaches go for some reason. It's not good this time around, so I'd stick with what you have, especially with how many. Yes, it's a typical Vikings year, but you can build off of this year because this was supposed to be a down year for you Vikings. Like, this was not supposed to be a 14-win season. Sure, Sam Darnold wasn't the best, but he definitely helped. And that Vikings defense is really good this year. Obviously, Justin Jefferson's really good. Jordan Addison, I almost said Dalvin Cook, Aaron Jones, like all those players are still really good. I'm not that upset about that. It's something good you can build off of, and kind of sticking with the coaching situation. Ben Johnson was hired by the Chicago Bears to be the head coach, and Caleb Williams just got his wish. So I'm curious to see what the Bears do there. I shared the news with a couple friends and a couple family members, and they seem to be very happy. So I'm happy for them. Hopefully they can actually turn things around and not mess things up for the 50th time again. But we'll see. But
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious because this is like, I feel like in the past their head coaching hires are always just like, huh?
they've been.
Especially Matt Eberflus, I was like,
Eberflus is a weird choice. It's been always kind of iffy. This time around, it seems legitimate and it seems somewhat promising.
I mean, he's been the hottest coach to hit the market like every year, like for the past 2 or 3 years, he's been like the biggest name, and he's just sticked around Detroit. But
it just happened to be this year that he finally moved on, and
I'm surprised the Bears actually went and got him, because I'm like, that actually seems he's
it's
the
good
most
for
hyped
Caleb
coach.
Williams. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, you would hope. The concern is because the last time I think I saw this much hype around an offensive coordinator was Kellen Moore when he was with Dallas, and then he went to Los Angeles and did not look good. He's not looked. I mean, he looks pretty good this year with the Eagles, but ever since he left Dallas, he didn't look great. And I'm like, okay, so this guy clearly wasn't even that good of like or he's not like as good of an OC as people thought. So probably not even like much less a good head coach. And is this going to be Ben Johnson? Is he just going to be an offensive coordinator guy? Is he just a really good offensive coordinator? Or is he actually built for a head coach? Or was he not even that good of an offensive coordinator and it was just really Dan Campbell? And that's kind of what we're going to get to see. But again, Bears, I did not expect to make the good hire. I was kind of expecting more like Raiders or Saints to kind of make like
the move,
the big move where it's like, oh, this is actually a good hire. But
Yeah.
Bears, it's not hugely in your wheelhouse. So
no.
I think,
Congrats.
I mean, again, there's a lot that we don't know as far as the process, the interviewing, and everything goes. From the outside in, he looks like the best guy.
Yeah. I guess it just kind of brings us to the next game then, because, I mean, speaking of Kellen Moore, actually, Eagles and Rams, the score looked close, but the game wasn't that close up until the very end. It turned into a snow game at the very least. Barkley with over 200 rushing yards. Hurts did pretty decently, I'd say. Apparently he was he knocked out of the game for a little bit and then came back in for some reason, or am I just hearing things? Because
I know he came back with I think he came back in with a knee brace, I think, at some point. Yeah, this game was close-ish. Like, the Rams defense played pretty well, except for the fact that they couldn't stop Saquon Barkley, but no one really has been able to. Saquon just had a really good game, which is like what's new. He kind of carried that offense for what feels like the second straight week. And you saw a lot less of the offensive, like the passing game, I feel like. But defense pretty much actually is what shored up that game, as the Rams were actually had a chance to win the game late, but it was, I believe, a 3rd and 2 sack from Jalen Carter with under 2 minutes that really put the Rams behind the ball and inevitably ended the game. But yeah, Rams fought hard, especially in a year where they weren't expected to look
that good.
Yeah, like they looked good in the playoffs, and they finished the year strong. So I feel like there's a lot to feel good about. It's not like there's concerns, and I guess this is a talking point about Stafford maybe being done. There's rumors, or there's talks about Cooper Kupp and his future in Los Angeles, if that's gonna stay. From what I've seen, it doesn't seem like he's looking at retiring, as he's said it's more like out of his control, his future with the Rams, meaning he probably still wants to play, but he doesn't know if he'll stay in Los Angeles, if they'll re-sign him, or
that's fair.
It'll be.
I wouldn't be surprised if Stafford did retire. He's kind of getting up in that age area, but I don't know. It just kind of depends on what he wants to do. Yeah, I agree. Rams definitely I wouldn't say unexpected, but did better than what you were supposed to kind of year, especially regarding all the Aaron Donald retiring and all those players and getting a whole lot new draft positions and everything. I mean, Jared Verse looks really good. You picked up a good player there. However, make sure you control his temper, I guess. Temper in the sense of don't let it get into his head when you play the Eagles. Just saying. Because I imagine that's kind of some of the reason why he... Because he did pretty decently, I'd say. He had a good motivator, but I think they got too far into his head.
Yeah, I mean, again, he's been a really good... He's probably front runner for Defensive Rookie of the Year. I mean, I know a couple of the people you could throw up there with him, but I think he's kind of leading that. And he's been good. Pretty solid replacement, even though it's not exactly the same. Pretty solid replacement for Aaron Donald.
Yeah.
But I think there was just, I don't know, the Eagles' defense is just, it's really hard to go against, and I think that's a lot of what helped the Eagles pull that one out compared to the Rams, who were just kind of, again, scrappy. But I don't know. The NFC side has been a lot more interesting compared to the AFC, which has been very
bland,
typical. I mean, you have a
wow. I'm so surprised that these are the last two teams.
You have a 1 and a 2 seed, so that's about as expected. But on the other side, you have a 6 and a 2, and it was almost a 6 and a 4, which would have been
almost, yeah.
So,
speaking of typical AFC, gonna go into the last game here, Ravens and Bills. It almost became typical Bills until it became typical Ravens. Mark Andrews, I've noticed. I mean, I've known this for a while, but it was very glaring during the game. He tends to make, I don't know, not terrible decisions, but he lets up and loses control or whatever at the worst possible times. That 2-point conversion towards him, that was PTSD, especially for you, I assume, because it happened against the Steelers. Was it twice?
I don't think twice. I know it happened one time.
And it happened once against the Steelers, once against the Bills.
Towards the end of half, though.
I don't remember. The point still being, Mark Andrews, as much as a good player as he has been for the past 5 or how many years he's been in the NFL? A while, but he's... Andrews, I love you, dude, but don't do that. And then the fumble and interception from Lamar was not good either. Pressure got to him real fast, and he kind of forced it. The fumble was just... It got knocked out. Can't really do much about that. It was also kind of slick out there, so I wouldn't be surprised if that was another reason why they just weren't on top of their game. Bills, I'd say, a bit concerning towards the second half because the Ravens were slowly crawling back in, especially towards the end. What was it? It was a couple 3-and-outs too. Like the Ravens defense did show up, and clamping down on Allen in that offense was pretty impressive. But Ravens kind of shot themselves in the foot. So
Yeah, because I have many things to say about the Ravens, but before I really get there, I do want to talk on the Bills beforehand. Bills, came out hot. I don't know. I mean, you went out, you won the game. I'm not gonna take that away. You played well. You made a lot of big plays. I think there are some concerns with the way they came out of the second, or came into the second half.
yeah,
With what was it, like one rush yard after 2 possessions? They had 1 rush yard. And so
point still being the Ravens defense showed up.
yeah, the Ravens defense did show up, but it's just that's something you can't really do. Because I think it was it 2 straight 3-and-outs. I think they had maybe 1 first down through those first 2 drives of the half.
Yeah,
And just that really gave the Ravens a chance to get back in that game, and they made that way closer than it should have been with how they went into half. But I don't know. The Ravens. So the thing that disappoints me so much is that this game was as close as it was with as many mistakes as they made. And I don't point to Mark Andrews and say that this is entirely his fault. I mean, yes, he made the 2 big mistakes that really hurt that game, like really affected the outcome. But that's just because they were late and crucial. But I put it beyond that. I definitely don't blame Lamar. I mean, Lamar, again, he had 2 mistakes, but I think a lot of this actually looks towards like game planning and preparation and coaching, because you come in here, you make all these mistakes, you have some bad penalties at crucial times, which is just stuff you can't do, and that's like a composure thing. It's just not being prepared for what that was there. Again, the fumbles, because it was 3 fumbles, that just shows that that's just a sign you weren't prepared for a snow game in Buffalo in January, which is what you should be prepared for. So it just doesn't seem like they were prepared for that. There was that one penalty that really irked me and actually had a fairly big implication, was towards the end of the first half. I still think was a pretty bad call, and that gave Buffalo 7 points. That really would have helped. But again, looking other than that, because I'm not going to say ref ball or anything, but other than that, Ravens made a lot of mistakes and yet still came up that close to winning that game.
Mm-hmm.
And that I look at that feeling like the Ravens, that was their game to lose, and they did. Which is why it stings so much. Not because they went out there and just got beat, but ball security wasn't good. There's several drop passes. It's so disappointing that you can make all those mistakes and only come up 2 points short.
Mm-hmm.
But here we are. And it's just...
Yeah.
It's disappointing. It's heartbreaking, but what can I say?
Use Derrick Henry more.
Yeah, that would have helped in the first half too. That goes into game planning, but it's nothing new. So we're here, but that's all I'll say on the Ravens for now. So, any closing thoughts on this last round?
Overall, or
just from the games?
Not surprised about the AFC. A little surprised about the NFC. I already know who are going to be my picks for the Super Bowl, but we'll have to do some power rankings first, and then we'll go from there. But other than that, I'd say the games for the most part were pretty entertaining. Like I'd say Well, yeah, 3 of the 4 were pretty close for the most part. The one that was technically a quote unquote blowout was just the Commanders just pulling away from the Lions, and even then it was still entertaining. So
Yeah, I mean there was a lot going on there. Yeah, I think it was. I mean, I'm a little sour, obviously, but that I don't want that to take. I don't want to take that away from like what was a pretty good divisional round. I mean,
yeah,
again,
it was a great game.
mine was heartbreaking, and then there's the Chiefs moving on, which is just. I mean, nobody really wants to see.
Another year, same old things.
But I mean, I don't know. I'm not complaining too much.
No.
I've just a few other things before we move to power rankings. Just power rankings won't be super long. Anyways, but we talked some coaching stuff. Obviously, again, Ben Johnson and Kevin O'Connell getting deals, but they were maybe not as much talked about. But there was the talk of the Patriots bringing back McDaniels as their offensive coordinator.
Yes, I did see that.
And the Indianapolis Colts hiring Anarumo as their new DC.
I didn't hear that one. But yeah, the Patriots situation, that doesn't surprise me. But also, what is it, like the third time he's been on that staff?
McDaniels, I know he's been in the. They kind of just. People have mentioned that the NFL is very incestuous, and I think that the Patriots are like the best example of that, where, especially under Belichick, they have guys look really good, they go off, don't do well as head coaches, and then they come back and have a stint there. I don't know how well he'll look there.
Probably not that great.
He'll be, I guess, okay. I
mean,
don't know if he's going to be the best thing for Drake May,
but Vrabel might.
Vrabel could be. I mean, he's more defensive minded.
Yeah, but we'll see how he develops. Drake May,
I don't know. Maybe he'll go and make a move for like a running back or something, because we know that he knows how to work a team with a running back.
This is true.
But I do want to talk about just a little bit. I mean, I don't know. ESPN has dubbed the Colts hiring of Anarumo. They called him a proven leader, and I don't know how. I just think it's an interesting move after his stint with the Bengals, that he was. I mean, maybe leadership is a quality that he has, but like, I just don't know if you feel that good about what he did with Cincinnati.
No.
I mean, it was better towards the end of the year. I'll say that much. But how much of that was Anarumo, and how much was other people?
I don't trust him. No offense to him, but I'm not sure about that.
I don't know. Maybe it's the Zach Taylor thing, because there's a lot of talks about how Zach Taylor just doesn't do well early in the year, and that's kind of been his problem. And I get that, but like, how much of that is affecting how the defense plays earlier?
Exactly.
So it'll be interesting to see how he does in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Indianapolis, I mean, hey, Kenny Moore had a really good year, so maybe he'll be able to utilize him, but didn't have a good defense this last year, and we're going to see how that changes. But I guess we move along, though, to
power rankings.
Power rankings, yes.
Wow, we only have 4 teams.
Wow, so
No.
this
will be very fast. So, number 4, Commanders.
Yeah, I also have the Commanders here, which makes me really sad, big sad, because they're honestly.
They have such a high ceiling, but I'm curious to see if they can get there.
It's such a Cinderella story, and I love it so much. And them alongside the Bills, those are like the two teams. I mean, I'm rooting for them, I think, more than the Bills, and I'm rooting for the Bills because I'm like, please don't give me the Chiefs. But I don't know. It's just, I love Jaden Daniels. I just love the team there. Once the Ravens lost, I was like, I'm an honorary Commanders fan. They're gonna be the team. They're like the team I'm pulling for the hardest, just because it'd be so fun to see them make it. But like you mentioned, they're not like. I don't think they're quite there yet. They're dangerous because they're a team with nothing to lose.
Yeah.
But they're not.
It's a rebuild year.
Yeah, this is the rebuild year, and you're in the NFC Championship, which is just crazy, and they're way overperforming. I mean, we talked about the Vikings and how they exceeded expectations. Talk about the Commanders exceeding expectations, which, I mean,
we just got to hope that they don't hit above their weight, I guess. That's the other thing. And they might hit it at one point, but we'll see. We'll see where it happens, whether it's the championship game or the Super Bowl, and see if they get that far. But they're going to run into a really good defense at some point, and obviously the Eagles are that good defense.
I know. They've seen them twice. Now, there was a funny thing that that someone pointed out to me, because I completely forgot about this. It does tie back to the Lions-Commanders game and Ben Johnson. But I don't know if you recall last year, but the Commanders actually interviewed Ben Johnson for a head coach job, and he turned him down to stay in Detroit. And now he's been beaten by them, and he's like, "Screw this! I'm going to Chicago, and I'm gonna make Caleb Williams better than Jaden Daniels." But
maybe it's just a spite move. I don't know.
I think it's funny, but no, I think Dan Quinn's done a wonderful job. I think Cliff Kingsbury has done a great job with that offense. I mean, you dropped 45 points on the Lions again. Banged up defense, but
still,
I think they're being slept on a lot, and I'm going to continue to sleep on them by putting them at 4 as the worst team left, but not really. You're also the hottest team, because I don't think anyone is playing above their pay grade like they are.
They could see they're a team where I can see them being immediately. They lose the championship game by a lot, or they make it to the Super Bowl and then possibly win that. There's no in between for me. Mm-hmm. That's where I'm kind of sitting at. I just need to see what happens this championship game, and then I'm kind of curious to see what I'll choose for the Super Bowl. I mean, I have my pick for the Super Bowl already, but I probably won't say it right now.
Yeah, we'll save it.
We'll save it. But number 3, Chiefs.
This pains me so much. I actually have the Bills here because I want the Bills to be at least above the Chiefs. I really wanted them above the Chiefs, because I don't want the Chiefs to be up there, but they're the Chiefs, especially we're talking playoff Chiefs, which is just, how are you going to stop them? Bills, again, you came and played a good Ravens team, and you won, but also I feel like there's a lot of things where you look at that and go, did you really beat the Ravens, or did the Ravens just beat themselves? So, and again, Ravens are a really good team, but I don't know. There's some current concerns, and there's the fact that, again, Chiefs are the Chiefs, and I've had them lower, but it's playoff time. They're serious.
Yeah.
I just think they're going to be, I think the Bills are just not quite there. And again, they're playing very well. Mm-hmm. That's not, all these teams are good. I mean, that's why they're here. But
yeah. Yep. Number 2, Eagles.
Yeah, I also have the Eagles here.
Okay.
And again, it's they're so good at the things they're doing well, but they're still missing that pass game, which kind of showed up towards the end of the regular season before Jalen Hurts got hurt, ironically. But since he came back, it's kind of just been leaning on the run game and the defense, and that works really well when you have a really good run game and a really good defense, and those are the proven 2 most important things in the playoffs is a strong run game and defense.
A defense.
And just the way that those two have been playing has been ridiculous.
Yeah. It's been impressive, so I'm not refuting that whatsoever.
But yeah, it's just if their pass game was as electric as everything else currently, then I think they would be up there. And it's not to say their pass game just is bad, but it's I would like to see them
more
be able to rely on it more than they are. Mm-hmm. But
yeah, we'll see what they do here, because especially with that Commanders defense, I'm curious. And then obviously number 1, I have the Bills, and then you have
The Chiefs, because
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame you for putting the Chiefs up there. I mean, I would too, but
I don't like it, but
I just don't trust the Chiefs being number 1 right now. Like, they're a really good team, don't get me wrong, especially playoff mode. Something's a bit off with them. This year's been kind of wonky for them. And while they've been able to close out games, it's not been impressive, except a few of them. I don't know. Most of the season, I've been kind of skeptical with that team. But obviously, this is playoffs, so this is a different team now. So we'll see.
yeah, there's so much that, I mean, I think there were a lot of people who were hoping for a choke here, because we saw the Vikings choke, we saw the Lions choke, the Ravens choked. There's several teams who did choke, and people were hoping for the Chiefs. And I think you even mentioned this earlier this year, where it's either like first game exit or Super Bowl for them.
Yeah.
And I mean, they passed the first game, so, and I'm kind of in that boat where it's like, no, shoot, they made it past their first game, which means that I don't know if there's anyone who's going to be able to stop them, which I don't like it, but they're there because I think it's deserved.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Next week will prove that for us.
All hail Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs.
Don't want to. But
we just won't hear the end of it. That's the other thing. So, I mean, I like good teams. I like watching good teams. I don't like hearing the constant blabbering from specific fan bases, depending on if they're a dynasty or not. Like, the amount of talk that the Steelers do every year, like, shut up. You haven't won a playoff game in, like, 5 years. That's just one example. Like, certain fan bases just need to be quiet until you actually go and prove yourself for once. In this instance, the Chiefs are just really good, and they deserve to brag, but it's, like, very annoying because it's like, you're a good team. Just stop being unbearable to watch, I guess. I don't know why it's unbearable to watch. It's just, I can't stand their fans sometimes. It's not even their fans. It's just the bandwagons. Mm-hmm. So, I'm not a fan of bandwagons. I heavily despise bandwagons. That means you have no loyalty to anything.
If this is news to you, where have you been?
Yeah. That's just me.
I feel like we're almost on loop from last year, but
just a wee bit. And that's why it's just whenever a team wins a Super Bowl or something like that, then they act all tough and big. And then they'll, like, lose immediately next year. Like, when what was it? There's been several teams in the past where they get to a certain point in their seasons, and then they automatically assume, oh, we're just winning the Super Bowl now. No.
I mean, there's a lot of. I don't know the actual numbers. I think the last time I really heard significant talk about it, I think it was the Panthers when they made the Super Bowl. But there's a lot of times where teams will make a Super Bowl and then the next year
they'll just never show up there ever again.
Yeah. And I mean, this year, look at the 49ers. They didn't even make the playoffs.
And that was another reason why I was not a fan of Jacksonville after that 2018 run, because that fan base became unbearable. Just because you made the AFC Championship game did not mean you were consistently good. You finally were there for the first time. Act like you've just were there for the first time instead of just acting like you've been there for every single year. Because that was a huge thing that I just didn't like. Like, I was rooting for Jacksonville, regardless of the situation. I just didn't like the really boastful talk. I didn't like that. So,
yeah, but I don't know. Well, I guess again, I've put in my opinion. Now it's time to just sit back and watch and see if the Bills can keep us from another Chiefs Super Bowl.
Yay.
Which we'll, I guess, talk more about
in the next episode.
So yeah, but I think we're all out of stuff to talk about here. So
Thank you for joining us. We'll see you in the next video. See ya.
bye.